All right, this is Mitch for Indigenous Insights, Eagle Radio's weekly Anishinaabe radio program. Chimigwech for tuning in. I have a couple of special guests here on the show this week. In the studio, 6 feet away, I measured, Mr. Howard Kimewon. How's it going, Howard? And on the phone line from Tempe, Arizona, it's the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Keith Secola. Keith, how's it going?
It's pretty good tonight. Good to hear and talk to everybody.
Yeah, thank you very much for calling in. So, me and Howard are in a pretty cold area. We got snow outside. I got to ask, what's the temp right now, where you're at?
I think it's in the upper 50s. I mean, I'm sitting outside, and people are starting, daylight is starting to disappear, but the weather's pretty nice. But I paid for it all summer, though.
Hell yeah. Gets pretty hot that way, huh?
Yeah.
All right, so for the show today, I don't really have an aim for our conversation. What I wanted to do is just bring both of you in here and just kind of have a free flow conversation. But before we get into that conversation, I do have to throw this out. We had our KBIC elections here this past weekend, so I want to send a congratulations out to the candidates that won, and a congratulations to the candidates that didn't win, because it's just cool to see them going out and going at it anyways. It's inspiring to see people that want to help out their community and stuff. So congratulations to everybody in the elections, and glad to see it went through. And with that, let's start kind of right there. Have either of you guys have history with tribal politics in your own areas? Keith or Howard?
Not really.
No?
No, not really, no.
And so you're from just outside of Wiki?
Yeah, about 2 miles outside of Wiki.
And what kind of setup do they have in Wiki? Is it like a tribal council like it is here?
Oh, yes, it is. We got tribal council, we got chief, and, it's just like here. Everything goes pretty regularly. I think they got to change councilors every 2 years. And
every couple of years?
Every couple of years, and this and that, I guess,
So
what about you, Keith? You have any history with tribal politics?
No, I never really not dabbed into it, being kind of a outside of even, that thing. But I've always been around tribal politicians, and I've seen it on a national level, and, I've helped campaign for people, back home and things like that. So, it's a whole other ballgame, I think, and it's a lot of respect to the people, who do it and do it well.
Look at a lot of music. It kind of seems like a lot of musicians have special relationships with politics. A lot of politicians like to use music for their campaigns and stuff like that. And a lot of musicians use their music as like political tools. That's kind of interesting how that relationship is.
Well, it's funny because Biden, their campaign, they tweeted the Indian cars, for people to listen to it for diversity. And so, things like that is kind of like good accidents and things that happen. I know a lot of musicians get political, and so it's hard not to, as far as with the way of living and things like that, and you get your songs out there, and people relate to them, and before we go any further, but what I wanted to say is part of the reason I wanted to come on tonight to listen to Howard talk a lot too. I've heard a lot about him, and you speak well about him. And for me, always learning from people like him, and people that are kind of swayed towards politics with that native wisdom too. I think that's always been a good. To look at both sides of the stories, and that's what it's interesting.
Yeah, like I said, I don't really have too much of a name of the conversation, but one of the bullet points that I do have is maybe a little bit of a language lesson tonight from Howard, because he's always ready to give us some language.
Oh,
right,
yeah.
Right, Howard?
Right, Keith. So, you just said a while ago, you're an outsider, just like I am. I come across a lot of native politics for what I do. I do a lot of language, and a lot of times I'm asked to do translations, like Gima, Ogma, and Gigadonen is the counselor, and Ogma is the chief, or Gima. And where I'm from, it's neither you speak the language to get to the people, because most people back home speak the language. Meanwhile, a lot of these younger politicians don't speak the language at all. They try to depend on English to get to the people, especially the elders. And from what I hear, 99% of the time, these younger generations don't get to the elders, by not speaking the language. And I think our best bet in the future is to learn the language if you're going to run for council or chief, whatever, and it always be good for the people. Like I've been to Minnesota, Wisconsin, and I've heard a lot of speakers, younger generation of speakers, and I think it's kind of helped to get together with speakers most of the time, where when you get a chance, speak the language. And I look at it, as a savior for my family, my tribal people. We've been speaking the language, I don't know, for a long time. It's just times like this, when Christmas comes around, I could remember when people used to go to mass on Christmas Eve and talk about and I also heard about people that went their little private ceremonies and they did all language. That's the difference between religion and when you start believing in something else. And dependency is not always the best thing for people like us. When you're not with your people, like I'm an outsider here, and I try and help the best of my ability to speak the language here with the kids and the elders. And sometimes I feel so alone. I don't get no help here like another speaker would be. It would be such a tremendous gift to me. For you, as a musician, I think you're in a crowd where there's musicians. Back home, we got a lot of musicians. We got guitar players, piano players, and singers and all that, and drummers. And, it amazes me sometimes to hear my people singing the language. Even these country and western songs, they sing in the language, like You're Cheating Hard, they'll sing that in the language. And, it's amazing how much you could translate into the language with them western songs. Like, I've heard you sing, play your guitar. Dawi.
Dawi.
Dawi is your guitar. What is the name of your guitar? Who made the guitar?
Yeah, I got a couple different names. Like I don't know. You start nicknaming things, and a lot of my guitars were like homemade guitars or Luthers, but Gibson or whatever.
I gotta ask. I would assume that you have quite the collection of guitars. How many guitars do you own?
I like to gift a lot of them too, and get them up to it. Like and just like flutes too. In my room, right now I kind of just been cleaning up, and I counted 11 of them. And a lot of them aren't very good. Like when I was growing up in northern Minnesota, my mother would always buy like rum and sale guitars, and so when we were growing up as kids, a lot of Anishinaabe kids were around music, and guitars and things, and like Howard was saying, our pluralness is pretty cool. Like the way that Native people are plural in so many things, and understanding so many things, and diversifying and adapting to the current situation we're in. I think that's really what. But anyways, these guitars, they would come in as rum and sale guitars, and they'd have 6 strings, and pretty soon they would have 5 strings and then 4 strings. But nobody really in our family played, like maybe an uncle from Canada or something, or a friend down the street. But no one knew how to change the strings, so you'd have like a couple of 3-string guitars, a couple of 2-string guitars, and
What do you think it was that got her to buy them? Just a toy, or do you think that she hoped you would take it to the next level?
I think it was a little bit of magic, like a little bit of richness of being poor, like, hey, this looks like pretty good, and I would flick up on it like one string and just pluck on it like when I was a little kid, and we would play a little bit, but never really take it seriously until maybe after high school. And that guitar also brought me language too. When I was growing up, Howard, I didn't speak fluently, and I could hear a lot. And so, like so many of my generation, we could understand more, but we're afraid to kind of speak, but could understand it. Like when you were talking, Gichoma, the chief and things like that, or Anime, Gishigaida, or you talk about Christmas and things like come to you. But language really came to me when I started also combining songs with it. So it's interesting to hear you say your cheating heart, singing it in Anishinaabe or Ojibwe. And I see it down here too in Dene languages and in the Apache languages and also in people who sing gospel music. That's what I mean when I talk about the pluralness of Native, and to understand the diversity and the complexity of even our demographics in language acquirement and language usage and things like that. But guitars have been a real good instrument of it's almost like a clan, like you become a guitar player, so that's your clan.
Yeah.
You might be a singer, so that's your clan, So
Yeah, see,
I always joke, yeah.
Oh, sorry, but I was just going to say one of the ways that we kind of connect is we've been doing some work together. Are we allowed to talk about that, or we have to keep it under wraps?
I think we can talk about it, because this definitely is Native Americana, what Howard is talking about in language.
Yeah, so we've been working on a podcast series, Native Americana, and these are interviews that you've collected throughout the years. And I'll tell you what, as I'm going through these interviews, I can get a sense of that clan you're talking about. Like, it might be a musician, like Logan Stotts or any of these people that were Sage, Bond. It seems you guys do have sort of a kinship.
Well, I think, like it's an adaptation, I've heard stories like the McGeezy clan of our Anishinaabe, maybe more, Howard, was more like an adaptation, a newer clan, like of for Anishinaabe people. And maybe guitar player clan or musician clan is another clan, but we were all singers and we diversified maybe in words or words in poetry and words in song. But I think that's how we were, and I think songs they're out there. For me, we become song catchers, like we become vehicles of the songs. A lot of times is divine inspiration, and a lot of ironic that we're using the oppressor's words to combat oppression, and so there's a lot of, like I say, pluralness and complexity.
Yeah, I like that's like that when I say like the modern day warriors. I mean, that's the fight these days, is doing what you're doing. Well, and I think I've sort of asked you about this just in our work now, but can you talk a little bit about how your process does work? What comes to you when you're writing music? The lyrics, the riffs, or how does it work for you?
I think I start writing. Sometimes it's riffs, like I'll play a little guitar, and I'll play a riff. I'm going to walk into my office and I'm going to get a guitar, but that's how it usually starts. I'll start playing the guitar riff or thinking about something when I'm walking. Even when I'm a melody might come to my head, or something like that. And so it's really quite a process, being able to.
Well, let's talk about the big one, Indian Cars. I've been playing that one on the show for so long. How did that song come to you? Did you hear that first opening riff first, or?
Well, when I was growing up, and I'm 63 right now, and so when I was growing up, it was kind of a negative thing, like the whole Indian cars idea, and I remember going up to the Boundary Waters and seeing it written on a bathroom wall, Indian cars, but only spelled that way, and so I started spelling it NDN, kind of saying like we were mild compared to the wild behavior bestowed upon my ancestors, and so I kind of switched a little bit, instead of being a racial thing where a lot of people would make fun of Native people and Indian poorness almost, like they still do, I'm sure, but I wanted to kind of switch it out, and this riff here. That's like a 49 riff, from a genre of Native singing. Like, here's another 49.
Yeah, I hear it.
So it was a combination of Minnehaha and Hiawatha, and kind of coming through, and just putting a rock beat to it, like that very thing, like a little spoof on that, like a
yeah.
But not kind of going there, a little bit cheesy, but not going there, keeping it like a. And some people get it, like usually a lot of Native musicians get it a lot of times. And even to play that 49 melody that I was playing for you guys, there's only two switches in it, like there's like a yo hey, that's G, yo hey, that's G. So it's like, and just to where we switch, it's kind of amazing because a lot of people who haven't been exposed to our singing or our style have trouble switching there or don't realize where it comes, and a lot of times you just listen to it instead of coming in on one every time. Sometimes, this is what I learned from playing, like with Floyd Westerman, sometimes you might come in on two, or sometimes three, or something like that. And so the song was a combination of 49 melodies, a genre of Native singing, and a combination of social, economical outlook, humor, and metaphoric appeal.
You're right. That is complex. Before I ask you how COVID has affected you as a musician, I want to go back to Howard here because this is the first time we talked to Howard since you've recovered from COVID. Howard, how are you doing? Are you fully recovered at this point?
I feel like I'm fully recovered. I'm starting to get my breath back, and I'm starting to get around a lot better now. And
when did you have COVID? When did you get the positive?
That was around, I don't know, first week of November, something like that. And that's about 8 weeks ago.
And how long did it take to tell you sort of felt normal? It took a long time, didn't it?
It took about 14 days.
14 days.
But what I did was I started making native herbs tea, and I started drinking that. That sort of took care of that.
See, that's one of the things, too, about Howard, Keith, is that he doesn't just have the language. He also has all the knowledge from the woods. And you were raised in that way, right, Howard?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about this tea, because I had some, and it was good.
Well,
I liked it. It was a little bit woody, but it was good.
It all depends what you want. Like if you got a chest cold, if you got liver problems, if you got kidney problems, if you got whatever, it's if you're hurting and if your back is hurting, I make all those remedies. And the thing is, I don't sell it. I give it away. If somebody needs it, I'm usually there to give it away. And I was told at one point by my grandmother, my grandparents, and other people around my grandparents that it was not needed to be sold. If you sell it, it doesn't work. That's what I was told.
Really? Okay, I got you.
So right now I am drinking ironwood tea mixed with tamarack, which is kind of building up my lungs, and I'm doing really good now. I could do 3 flights of stairs like I did this morning. I didn't even have a rest halfway up the stairs. I just did it. I really surprised myself this morning.
So you're back to work now, back to teaching?
Back to teaching, and it's amazing how them elders taught me these things. It's just it's unbelievable. And there's nobody else doing that nowadays, I don't think. It's just, just like you got your music, and I got something in the woods that nobody knows about, It's just like that. And when I'm up there sometimes, these odd words come into my mind, like shkiki, nanduichagan, absichagan, all them different words you use when you're doing medicines, Absichagan wabo, that's liquid. Absichagan nibi shabo, if you're making teas, different kind of teas, Nganaga misijige is to mix whatever you're mixing. And so far, I've been doing this for maybe, I don't know, 20 years now. And a lot of it is starting to come back now. For a lot of years, I didn't really work on it. Now that I'm doing it, and I'm starting to really fully understand what I'm doing, then everything's starting to work. It's like a couple of years ago, I had a very bad feeling about my neighbor downstate, and they brought him home. He had cancer, so he brought him home. They just to spend his last few days at home. So luckily that time I was home, and I asked him what was really wrong with you. He said cancer, magwapane. That means cancer.
Magwapane.
Magwapane. That means he's got cancer. So I says, I'll make something for you tonight. So meanwhile, I'm doing this tea and I'm talking to myself in the language. People might think I'm crazy when I'm doing this, but that's what I do. And I also got a drum that goes with my medicines. I got a drum. I never show it anywhere. I just keep it to myself. I use it back home. I drum once in a while back home when I make my medicines. And some words I never knew before come to me when I'm drumming. And there again, I'm starting to understand more about the people that did it before I did it, before I came around. And luckily for me, I used to tell you the truth. I never when they sent me out to look for something, I didn't really enjoy doing it.
When was that? Like when you were younger?
When I was young, I was maybe about 14, 15. That was not my chore. That was their chore. The elders, that was their chore. They knew what they were looking for.
That's how it is when you're a kid, though, isn't it?
So, just like your music, it comes to you as you grow. I think you're 63 years old. I'm 70 years old, and COVID. When I had that, I thought I was going to go, but my elders saved me on that. It took me 9 days, I guess, to really get over it. I was really sick there for a while. And looking at it back now, I think of the elders, and if something should happen to you around the chest, if you got chest problems or anything, this is what you take or this is what you do. And every now and then I think of them elders. Sometimes I dream about elders that speak to me in the language. That's my dreams. I dream in the language, which I don't know if anybody else does that. It's just common for me to dream in the language.
If I'm not concentrating on my language enough, I picture you yelling at me in the language in my dreams. Tell me, get to work.
So when you started, Nagamin, when you started singing, what made you wanish abish kancha much tide mandawin gamin mandagana kwijinishnabe na nignatamong gito. When you started singing with the people, I mean back home like northern Minnesota, did you actually sang in front of your people in the language, or you tried or whatever?
Yeah, I have. Just as I was older though, like I was like in my 20s and things, and people, like I would play guitar. Then I would learn enough to play some guitar, and so it was like learning, and until I got a little bit older and started playing it a little bit better, then I would start singing. But a lot of times it would be, I was like learning my instrument. And I remember I was in Minneapolis at the Indian Center around Thanksgiving time, and I was listening to some drums and things like that. And there was an elder there who could see me. I had my guitar case and my guitar, and he came up to me and he told me, he says, you treat that guitar like a drum. Treat it like a drum, and then it'll take you a far ways. It'll take you. And so I always call my guitar the little brother of the drum. And even when I play it, like if I play it around and there's drummers around, I'll take it out of the case and I'll just let it go sit by it. Sit by the clan that it's from. Because I think all instruments are drums, really. I think they are. Even the guitar is the little brother of the drum, and songs come to it in that way. And so,
well, I mean, with that,
I would sing. Yeah, back to your question. Yeah, I would sing here and there, and people would listen and enjoy it. And some of the songs I remember, I would have elders that kind of tweak things. Like how would I say, like certain things with endings, and so that was very helpful to have some people who were encouraging.
Yeah, I definitely think that makes sense when you say all instruments are like the drum, because all the instruments might have different rhythms and different melodies they play, but they all play to that rhythm of the drum. The drum set is the one keeping that rhythm of the music, right?
Yeah, and I think it's a heartbeat,
Yep.
It's the heartbeat and it's the essence of life.
So let's talk a little bit about that moment. I'm going to steal this question from you because I think I heard you ask Terry Ree this in the interview. You asked him, when's the moment you knew you could use that guitar to sort of take your life down that path? When's that moment for you?
It was before I even started playing.
Before you started playing?
Yeah, I remember I was working up in Virginia, Minnesota, northern Minnesota, painting houses in the summertime. Part of a living. My father was a house painter, and so we'd get summer employment. And I remember I was working on a house, and the window couldn't come up. It was kind of jammed, and I remember pushing my forearms through the glass and cutting them. And I rode myself to the emergency room to get stitches, and I'm thinking on the way there, it says, how am I going to play guitar now?
All right.
And so that was a moment of enlightenment like that.
So then when that elder talked to you about your drum that day and treated it like a drum, was that like, that was like, this is it's finally happening moment? It's finally here?
Well, no, I think I took his words, like the song Indian Cars, even though I wrote it back in the, like the late 70s, early 80s, and started writing the words when I was working at Hibbing High School. I think it was Anishinaabe Naban, and the Indian Cars, I came to writing it, and so the song was out there then, and so what you do is you learn how to play it. Like I didn't learn the 49 part till maybe after I started jamming with some Arapaho musicians they're a native family band from Easity, Wyoming, and I remember going up there and they could jam on these 49 songs, and then applying some from this guy named Snowball. Richly, and it was inspiring, inspiration, and so you learn how to, I can kind of tweak this melody because these 49 songs, people can sing them for hours, and they sound, a little bit tweaked, a little bit same, a little bit here and there, and where they came from, and so after a while you learn how to roll out the song, like you might write it, but it takes you 20 years to learn to play it.
Wow.
And like Howard was saying, you learn now your medicine, like how he came back from this COVID thing to teach us tonight.
Yeah. Howard, have you sing? Do you sing drum or anything like that?
No,
Nothing?
no. I just talk to myself when I'm drumming, and that transforms to a lot of feelings to my heart. When I talk and drum at the same time to the medicines I gather. Sometimes I drum before I go out and gather. That's what I do, and seems like whatever I do, it seems like it's working. Like the guy before I told you about cancer, and he got well. He got a chance to ride his motorcycle again. The thing was, the next thing that took him was some kind of a cold, what do you call that other cold, when you got a really bad cold?
Pneumonia?
Pneumonia, that's what actually took him. That was, if I was there, I would have probably given medicines for that too, but I wasn't there at the time. So the thing he really wanted was to ride his motorcycle again. At night I went and talked to him that that's one thing I want to do is ride my motorcycle again. It's in the garage. And I was actually there when he took a ride on his motorcycle. The guy actually hugged me after he came back on his ride.
And that's why you don't sell it, right?
Yeah.
Right there. Very cool. All right, so we are reaching that time limit here. We had a 30-minute time limit because Keith had something going on. I do want to say Chimigwech to Howard for being here this evening. Chimigwech, Keith. Keith, before we hop off, is there anything else you'd like to talk about, promote, or anything? Because I know you got lots going on. Anything for the fans out there?
Well, just about that intention, like what Howard was saying, when he collects his medicine, he has intention for it, and he gives it power that way. So we have to do that to our lives. Perfect our lives. Live our lives so the fear of death never enters our heart. Those are words from Tecumseh, and those are long words, and those are good words. And so I think that's what we got to apply our lives with intention to beautify it, to make it good and long in service of others and our people. And through these songs, give me the inspiration that I'll reach out to you guys, Mitch and Howard, for guidance and for suggestions and to continue to my quest on the language. And I'd sure like to collaborate maybe with you, Howard, and we could bring some children's songs with our language and things that we could talk about. And maybe we could keep this dialogue ongoing between us three and see how we acquire it. And I'm glad you're feeling better, and best wishes to everybody out there. I pray every morning so that we are strong in this thing. So miigwech for welcoming me and asking me and to be part of this conversation. So thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Welcome back anytime.
All right. You know what I'm going to do? I've got to get out on my steps in today. After my approach to the whole COVID thing as well has been good health, and we've been isolating, and really respecting it too. And so I really think that it's a wonder that people they can overcome this thing as well, and that's a lot of strength. So I'm going to go out and walk before it gets too dark, and then cook some supper for my family.
What's for dinner? What's for dinner tonight?
I don't know yet. We had buffalo stew the other night, so it was pretty good.
Hey, wait a minute. We got to do the language lesson. How about that? Buffalo stew, Howard. How about a language lesson on that?
Buffalo stew. Bishkode king bishike.
Bishkode.
Bishkode king bishike wias. Bishkode king bishike wias.
Bishkode king bishike wias.
Buffalo meat. Here's a song I remember. One of my first songs, Howard, I wrote when I was at the University of Minnesota, and it was snowing outside, and it was really beautiful. And there was here's the elder helped me translate this word. Zobeko Akwajan Nungo Levoli Levon Divinaga. And so it's kind of like a country western song that unfolds about having love and then losing love, but then you got to look for it again. But it all started out with it was snowing outside, and so them words still stick in my mind.
Man, you're like an encyclopedia of all I mean, how do you remember? There's a lot of details for all those songs. There's so many little parts to it. Complex.
Well, I think that's what I said about music, you
Yeah.
know. And then when Howard is talking about his drum, how words come to him and emotions come, and that's how it is, you know, like that divine inspiration. So, miigwech, guys.
Miigwech.
Miigwech.
Have a good
All right.
walk. Enjoy that weather.
Okay.
Bawapi.
Pamapi.